Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and watched the sky turn red. The year was 2157, and Earth was dying. Huge alien ships floated above every major city like dark clouds that would never go away. The Zephyrian Empire had come to take everything humans had built over thousands of years. "Sir, we're getting reports from New York," said Lieutenant Carl Davis, his voice shaking. "The aliens are using some kind of weapon that turns buildings into dust. The whole city is just ... gone." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. He had been born in New York. His parents were buried there. Now it was nothing but empty space, where millions of people used to live and work and dream about the future. What about the other cities? Jake asked, though he already knew the answer would be terrible. London fell 2 hours ago. Tokyo is under attack right now. Paris sent their last message 30 minutes ago, before the signal went dead. Carl's hands were shaking as he read from his screen. "Sir, I think we're the last ones left." The evacuation ship New Dawn carried 50,000 people. They were doctors, scientists, engineers, farmers, teachers, and children. They were all that remained of 8 billion human beings who had once called Earth home. The weight of that knowledge felt like a mountain pressing down on Jake's chest. Dr. Lisa Grant walked onto the bridge, carrying a metal case that contained the genetic information of every plant and animal species from Earth. Her lab coat was dirty and torn, and her eyes were red from crying. She had worked for 3 days straight to save as much biological data as possible before the aliens destroyed everything. "The seed banks from Alaska made it onto the ship," she said to Jake. "We also have DNA samples from about 2,000 animal species. It's not much, but it's something." Jake nodded. Lisa had lost her husband and 2 children when the aliens attacked the research station where she worked. But she kept going because someone had to save what could be saved. That was the kind of person humans were. They kept fighting even when everything seemed hopeless. The Zephyrian ships were not like anything humans had ever seen before. They were made of some kind of crystal that seemed to bend light around it. The ships could appear and disappear like ghosts. Their weapons could destroy entire buildings without making a sound. Worst of all, they seemed to enjoy causing fear and pain. "We tried to communicate with them," Jake remembered telling his crew when the aliens first arrived. "We sent every kind of message we could think of. Mathematical formulas, music, pictures of our families. We wanted them to know we were intelligent beings who could be friends." The aliens had answered by destroying every satellite in Earth's orbit. Then they had sent a message of their own. It was a video of human cities being attacked, with strange alien voices laughing in the background. The message was clear. Resistance was pointless, but humans did resist. They fought with everything they had. The military used tanks and jets and missiles. Nothing worked. The alien ships had shields that could stop nuclear weapons. Their crystal hulls were harder than diamond. For every alien ship that humans managed to damage, 10 more would appear. Jake had been a captain in the Earth Defense Force when the war started. He had led his squadron against the alien fleet over the Pacific Ocean. His pilots were the best in the world, flying the most advanced fighter jets ever built. They had trained for years to defend Earth from any possible threat. The battle lasted less than 10 minutes. The alien ships moved faster than anything humans had ever seen. Their weapons could target multiple fighters at the same time. Jake watched his pilots disappear one by one, their ships simply vanishing as if they had never existed. He was the only one who made it back to base. That was when the government decided to start the evacuation program. If humanity could not win the war, at least some humans could survive. Secret ships were built in hidden locations around the world. The plan was to save as many people as possible and find a new home among the stars. "Sir, we're ready to jump to hyperspace," said Navigator Pete Williams. He was only 22 years old and had never been in space before this mission. None of them had expected their first space flight to be running away from home forever. Jake looked at the view screen one more time. Earth looked so small and blue and beautiful. He could see the lights of fires burning where cities used to be. The aliens were probably celebrating their victory right now, dividing up the resources of a conquered world. "Take us out," Jake ordered. The ship's engines began to hum with power. The New Dawn was built using the most advanced technology humans had ever developed. It could travel faster than light and cross the galaxy in a few months. The ship could support 50,000 people for decades if necessary. It was humanity's best hope for survival. As they prepared to leave, Jake thought about his grandfather, who had fought in World War II. His grandfather used to tell him stories about how people could do terrible things to each other, but also how they could find the strength to keep going, even in the darkest times. "Remember this day," Jake said to his crew. "Remember what they did to us. Remember what we lost. But also remember that we survived. We're still here. And someday, somehow, we'll find a way to come back." The ship jumped to hyperspace, and Earth disappeared behind them. The aliens probably thought they had won completely. They had taken the most beautiful planet in the galaxy and destroyed the species that had lived there for millions of years. They would strip mine the oceans, cut down the forests, and build their factories on the graves of human cities. But deep in space, flying toward the unknown, 50,000 humans carried something the aliens could never destroy. They carried the memory of what Earth had been like before the invasion. They carried the knowledge of how to build and create and dream. Most importantly, they carried the promise that this was not the end of the human story. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Dawn and made a vow that would echo through the next 3,000 years. "We'll be back," he whispered to the stars. "We'll be back, and when we return, we'll make sure this never happens to anyone else ever again." The ship flew on through the darkness, carrying the last hope of humanity toward a future that none of them could imagine. Behind them, Earth burned. Ahead of them, destiny waited. 300 years had passed since the New Dawn reached the Andromeda sector. The ship had found a cluster of planets that humans named the Haven Systems. These worlds were harsh and dangerous, with gravity twice as strong as Earth and air. That burned human lungs. But they were rich in minerals and energy sources that could help humanity rebuild. Commander Ben Parker stood in the laboratory where his grandfather, Jake Morrison, had once worked. Jake had died 50 years ago, but not before seeing the first human children born in their new home. Ben looked exactly like his grandfather, with the same strong jaw and determined eyes. But there was something different about him that would have amazed the humans who fled Earth long ago. Ben moved faster than any human from Earth ever could. His reflexes were so quick that he could catch a bullet fired from a gun. His bones were stronger than steel, and his muscles could lift weights that would have crushed an old Earth human. The harsh gravity of Haven Prime had changed humanity in ways no one expected. Dr. Kate Sullivan walked into the lab carrying a device that looked like a helmet made of silver metal. Kate was the great-granddaughter of Dr. Lisa Grant, who had saved Earth's genetic archives. But where Lisa had been a normal human scientist, Kate was something entirely new. "The neural interface is ready for testing," Kate said to Ben. Her voice sounded normal, but if someone looked closely, they could see tiny lights blinking under her skin. Kate had computer chips implanted directly into her brain. She could think at the speed of a machine and solve mathematical problems that would take normal humans years to figure out. "Have you tested it on yourself yet?" Ben asked. Kate smiled and touched the side of her head. Suddenly, every computer screen in the lab came to life. Numbers and diagrams flashed across dozens of monitors, as Kate's mind connected with the laboratories. Main computer. She was not just using the computer. She was thinking with it as if it were part of her own brain. The interface allows direct mental control of any electronic system, Kate explained. A human pilot connected to this technology could fly a spaceship just by thinking about where they want to go. A soldier could aim weapons with perfect accuracy without even touching them. This was what humanity had become after 3 centuries. In the Haven systems, the combination of harsh alien worlds and advanced genetic engineering had created humans who were stronger, faster, and smarter than their ancestors ever imagined possible. Ryan Clark walked into the lab wearing what looked like a normal work uniform. But Ryan could survive in the vacuum of space without a suit. His lungs had been modified to process different kinds of atmosphere, and his skin had been engineered to resist radiation in extreme temperatures. He had just returned from working on the outside of their space station for 12 hours without any protective equipment. "The new ships are almost ready," Ryan reported to Ben. "We've built 50 vessels using the quantum engineering techniques. Each ship can exist in multiple dimensions at the same time. Enemy weapons won't be able to hit them because they're not entirely in normal space." Ben nodded. For 300 years, humanity had been preparing for the day they would return to Earth. Every generation had worked to make themselves stronger and build better technology. The children learned about Earth in school and promised to take back their ancestral home. The scientists developed weapons that could unmake matter at the atomic level. The engineers built ships that could bend space and time. Admiral Sam Torres commanded the growing human fleet from the military base on Haven 3. Sam was Ben's cousin, and like all humans born in the Haven systems, he possessed abilities that would seem magical to his Earth-born ancestors. Sam could see across vast distances of space with his enhanced eyes, and his brain could process tactical information faster than any computer. "We now have enough ships to challenge the Zephyrian Empire," Sam told the gathered military leaders. "Our scouts have been watching them for decades. They've grown lazy and comfortable. Their technology hasn't improved much since they conquered Earth. They think they're the masters of the galaxy, but they have no idea what we've become." The human scouts had been very busy during the 3 centuries of exile. Small, invisible ships had been sent throughout Zephyrian space to study their enemies. The scouts learned everything about Zephyrian military tactics, their ship designs, their weapons, and most importantly, their weaknesses. Captain Alex Reed had spent 10 years flying reconnaissance missions into enemy territory. His ship was so small and advanced that Zephyrian sensors could not detect it. Alex had watched the aliens strip mine Earth and turn it into an industrial complex. He had seen them enslave other species and destroy dozens of worlds just for their natural resources. "They haven't changed," Alex reported to the military council. "They're still the same cruel species that attacked Earth. They destroy everything beautiful and turn it into factories and mining operations. The galaxy is full of dead worlds because of them." But Alex had also discovered something important. The Zephyrians had never encountered an enemy like what humanity had become. Their weapons were designed to fight normal biological creatures and standard technology. They had no defense against weapons that could exist in multiple dimensions or soldiers who could survive in any environment. Dr. Claire Watson had been working on the most secret project of all. Claire was a biologist who specialized in studying alien life forms. She had spent decades analyzing captured Zephyrian technology and biological samples. Her research had led to the development of weapons that could specifically target Zephyrian nervous systems. "We can shut down their brain functions without killing them," Claire explained to the council. "The weapon causes temporary paralysis and memory loss. We can defeat their armies without committing genocide. We're not like them. We won't destroy entire species just because we have the power to do so." This was perhaps the most important difference between humans and Zephyrians. The aliens destroyed because they enjoyed causing suffering. Humans had learned to be powerful while remaining compassionate. They wanted justice, not meaningless slaughter. As the 300th anniversary of the Exodus approached, humanity was ready. They had built a fleet of 1,000 ships that used technology the Zephyrians could not understand. They had created soldiers who were faster and stronger than any enemy. They had developed weapons that could win battles without destroying worlds. Most importantly, they had never forgotten why they were preparing for war. Every human child grew up hearing stories about Earth's blue oceans and green forests. They learned about the cities where their ancestors had lived and the cultures they had created. They understood that they were not just seeking revenge. They were fighting to reclaim their heritage and protect other species from suffering the same fate. Admiral Sam Torres stood before the assembled fleet and gave the order that 300 years of preparation had been building toward. Today, we begin our journey home. Today, we start the mission to take back Earth and show the galaxy that humanity will never be destroyed. The Zephyrians thought they had won, but they were wrong. We are stronger now than we ever were before. We are coming home. The Zephyrian border guard Admiral Kethmer Vex was having a normal day when the impossible happened. He was sitting in his command chair on the battleship Crystal Fang, drinking his morning nutrition fluid and reading reports about mining operations. Unconquered worlds. The Zephyrian Empire had been peaceful for 3,000 years. There were no enemies left to fight. "Sir, we're detecting some strange energy readings at the edge of our space," reported his scanner officer. "The signatures are unlike anything in our database." Vex barely looked up from his reports. Probably just cosmic radiation from a dying star. File it with the other routine observations. That was his last mistake. The energy readings were not cosmic radiation. They were the quantum engines of 1,000 human ships jumping out of hyperspace all at once. The human fleet had arrived at the edge of Zephyrian territory, and they were not interested in talking. Captain Alex Reed stood on the bridge of his ship, the Vengeance of Terra. Through the view screen, he could see the massive Zephyrian fleet that guarded the border. These were the same crystal ships that had destroyed Earth 3,000 years ago. Alex felt a cold anger settle in his chest as he remembered the stories his grandfather had told him. "All ships, this is Captain Reed." Alex spoke into his communicator. "Remember why we're here. These are the creatures that murdered our families and stole our home. But we are not like them. We fight for justice, not for pleasure. Target their weapons and engines. Give them a chance to surrender." The first battle of the return war lasted exactly 7 minutes. The Zephyrian ships fired their plasma cannons and energy missiles at the human fleet. The weapons passed harmlessly through the human ships as if they were firing at ghosts. The humans had learned to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Physical attacks in normal space could not touch them. Admiral Vex watched in horror as his entire fleet was destroyed without the humans losing a single ship. The human weapons were beyond his understanding. They fired beams that simply made Zephyrian ships disappear. One moment a crystal battleship was there, the next moment it was gone, reduced to individual atoms scattered across space. "Send a message to the High Command," Vex ordered, his voice shaking. "Tell them the humans have returned. Tell them we need every ship in the Empire to stop them." But it was too late. The human fleet was already moving deeper into Zephyrian space, and nothing could slow them down. They moved through the Empire like a storm, destroying military bases and freeing enslaved populations. But they did not attack civilian areas or destroy planets. This confused the Zephyrians, who had always believed that power meant the right to destroy everything. Commander Nina Brooks led the liberation forces that freed the slave camps on Zephyrian mining worlds. Nina had been enhanced with technology that let her move through solid walls and become invisible to normal eyes. She could walk through the heaviest security without being detected. The prisoners are mostly from species the Zephyrians conquered in the last 1,000 years. Nina reported to Admiral Sam Torres. They've been working in the mines for generations. Most of them don't even remember what their home worlds looked like. Nina's mission was to free these slaves and give them ships to return to their home worlds. The humans had brought medical supplies and food for the prisoners. They also brought weapons for those who wanted to fight against their former masters. "We're not here to rule you," Nina told the freed slaves. "We're here to give you back your freedom. If you want to go home, we'll help you get there. If you want to fight the Zephyrians, we'll give you weapons and training." This was something the Zephyrians had never expected. They thought all species were like them, interested only in conquest and domination. They could not understand why. The humans would free slaves without demanding anything in return. Colonel Steve Martinez commanded the ground forces that landed on the former sites of Earth's great cities. Steve was enhanced with strength that could tear through solid steel, and speed that made him look like a blur to normal eyes. His mission was to reclaim the places where humans had once lived. New York has been turned into a crystal mining operation, Steve reported as he walked through the ruins of his ancestral home. They've dug out Manhattan Island and replaced it with processing plants. But I found something interesting in the old subway tunnels. Deep underground, Steve had discovered a hidden vault that contained artifacts from old Earth. The Zephyrians had never found it because they were not interested in preserving history. They only cared about resources they could use, but humans cared about memory and meaning. "We found books, photographs, and even some video recordings," Steve continued. "The people who built this vault wanted future generations to remember what Earth was like before the invasion. They wanted us to know what we were fighting for." Dr. Claire Watson was conducting her own mission aboard the Zephyrian ships they had captured. Claire's bioweapons were working perfectly. The Zephyrian crews were not dead, but they were paralyzed and unable to fight. They lay in their crystal ships, conscious but helpless, finally understanding what it felt like to be powerless. "The neural disruption field affects their entire nervous system," Claire explained to the other officers. "They can think and feel, but they cannot move or speak. The effect will wear off in a few weeks, but by then this war will be over." The Zephyrian High Command was in panic. Their empire was falling apart as human forces advanced on every front. Species that had been enslaved for centuries were rebelling with human weapons and support. Worlds that had been strip-mined were being restored by human terraforming technology. Emperor Kethmer Zul sat in his throne room, surrounded by the bones of creatures his empire had driven to extinction. For 3,000 years he had ruled a galaxy through fear and violence. Now, for the first time in his long life, he was afraid. "How many ships do we have left?" he asked his military advisor. "Less than 1,000, Your Majesty. The humans have destroyed or captured most of our fleet. Their technology is far beyond anything we have ever seen. Our weapons cannot hurt them, but their weapons can destroy us with ease." The Emperor's crystal throne began to crack under the pressure of his grip. He had been born on Earth in the ruins of a human city. He had grown up breathing the air of a conquered world and drinking water from human rivers. He had never imagined that the species he had helped destroy could become so powerful. "Send a message to their fleet," the Emperor commanded. "Tell them I want to negotiate." But the human fleet was already approaching Earth. Admiral Sam Torres stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Fury, and looked at the blue and green world that had once been humanity's home. The planet looked different now, covered with crystal cities and mining operations, but it was still Earth. "All ships, prepare for the final battle," Sam ordered. "We're going home." Emperor Kethmer Zul stood in his throne room on Earth, watching the human fleet descend from the sky like falling stars. The massive ships blocked out the sun, casting shadows over the crystal cities his empire had built on the graves of human civilization. For 3,000 years, he had ruled from this throne made of bones. Now he could feel his empire crumbling around him. "Your Majesty, the human fleet has surrounded the planet," reported General Kethmer Dex, his voice trembling. "With fear. They're demanding your surrender. They want to speak with you personally." The Emperor's red eyes burned with ancient hatred. He had been young when the Zephyrians first conquered Earth. He remembered the joy of watching human cities burn and hearing the screams of the dying. But now, looking at the impossible ships hovering above his palace, he felt something he had never experienced before: true fear. "Bring me the communication device," the Emperor commanded. "If the humans want to talk, then we will talk." The holographic image that appeared before him was not what he expected. Instead of a young human warrior, he saw an ancient man whose eyes held the weight of 3,000 years. This was Jake Morrison, the commander who had led the last humans away from Earth so long ago. Technology had kept him alive far beyond any normal human lifespan. "Hello, Zal," Jake said, his voice calm, but filled with cold anger. "Do you remember me? I was on the last ship to leave Earth when you murdered my world." The Emperor's crystal claws scraped against his throne. "You should have stayed dead, human. Your species was weak. We did the galaxy a favor by removing you." Jake smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "You taught us many things, Emperor. You taught us that the strong prey upon the weak. You taught us that mercy is weakness. You taught us that only power matters in this universe. We learned your lessons very well." Above the planet, Admiral Sam Torres prepared for the final battle. The human fleet faced the last remnants of the Zephyrian Navy. Crystal ships that had once seemed invincible now looked small and fragile compared to the massive human vessels. The Eternal Fury alone was larger than 10 Zephyrian battleships. "All ships, remember our mission," Sam spoke to his fleet. "We are here to liberate Earth, not to become the same monsters that destroyed it. Target their weapons and engines. Give them every chance to surrender." The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Zephyrian ships fired their most powerful weapons, energy beams that could crack moons and missiles, that could level mountains. But the human ships existed in multiple dimensions at once. The attacks passed through them as if they were hitting nothing but empty space. Captain Alex Reed watched from the bridge of the Vengeance of Terra as his ship's quantum disruptors tore through the Zephyrian fleet. The enemy ships simply came apart, their crystal hulls separating into individual atoms. It was not destruction. It was like the ships had never existed at all. "This is too easy," Alex said to his crew. 3,000 years ago, these ships seemed unstoppable. Now they're like children's toys compared to what we've become. But the humans were not celebrating. They remembered the billions of people who had died when these same ships attacked Earth. They remembered the children who had never grown up and the dreams that had been cut short. This was not a moment for joy. It was a moment for justice. The surface of Earth. Commander Nina Brooks led her forces through the crystal cities that covered the old human settlements. Her mission was to locate and secure any remaining human artifacts or historical sites. Nina could phase through solid matter, making her invisible to Zephyrian sensors. "I found something," Nina reported as she explored the ruins beneath New York. "There's an entire section of the old subway system that they never discovered. It's full of human history. The tunnels contained libraries, museums, and even recordings of human voices from before the invasion. The Zephyrians had built their cities on top of human civilization, but they had never bothered to dig deep enough to find these treasures. They did not understand that some things were more valuable than gold or crystal. Colonel Steve Martinez was leading the ground assault on the Emperor's palace. Steve's enhanced strength allowed him to tear through the crystal walls as if they were made of paper. His speed made him impossible for the Zephyrian guards to target. "The palace is secured," Steve reported. "We've captured all the Zephyrian leadership. They're paralyzed by Dr. Watson's bioweapons, but they're alive and unharmed." This was the moment that defined humanity's return. They had the power to destroy their enemies completely, but they chose mercy instead. The Zephyrians had never shown such restraint. They had always killed everything they conquered. Emperor Zul found himself face to face with Jake Morrison in the throne room where he had ruled for 3 millennia. The old human looked fragile, but his eyes burned with the accumulated rage of his entire species. "You could have been our friends," Jake said quietly. "When your ships first arrived, we tried to communicate. We sent you music, mathematics, pictures of our children. We wanted to share the universe with you." The Emperor's voice was bitter. "Your species was inferior. We took your world because we were stronger. That is the law of the galaxy." "No," Jake replied. "That was your law. Now there's a new law. The strong protect the weak. The powerful serve justice. The advanced species help the primitive ones grow and learn." Jake gestured to the window, where they could see human ships restoring Earth's damaged ecosystems. The crystal cities were being carefully removed, and green plants were already beginning to grow in their place. The oceans were being cleaned, and the air was becoming breathable again. "We're not going to rule the galaxy like you did," Jake continued. "We're going to protect it. We're going to make sure that what happened to Earth never happens to any other world." The Emperor could not understand this. In his mind, power existed to be used for domination. The idea that the strongest species would choose to serve others was impossible for him to comprehend. "What will you do with us?" the Emperor asked. "You have a choice," Jake replied. "You can accept exile to the outer rim of the galaxy, where you can live in peace but never again threaten other species. Or you can choose to learn from your mistakes and become part of a new galactic community where all species are equal." Many Zephyrians chose exile, unable to accept a universe where they were not the masters. But some, especially the younger ones, chose to stay and learn. They discovered that cooperation was more rewarding than conquest, and that creating was more satisfying than destroying. Years later, Admiral Sam Torres stood on the observation deck of the orbital station above Earth. The planet below was blue, and green again, with white clouds drifting over restored continents. Human cities were growing alongside the habitats of other species who had chosen to make Earth their home. "We kept our promise," Sam said to the memorial wall that honored those who had died in the original invasion. "We came back. We made them pay, and we made sure it would never happen again." The human fleet now patrolled the galaxy, protecting weak species from strong ones, and ensuring that no world would ever again suffer what Earth had suffered. The age of Zephyrian domination was over. The age of human protection had begun. Earth was home again, and humanity had learned that the greatest victory was not conquest, but the wisdom to use power with mercy.